Amazing. What is going on? So we have basically fallen into Tuesday. So we missed the Monday market breakdown, but we're here for the Tuesday. So it's all good. It's all good. Okay. So jumping straight into it, going to keep it short, straight to the point. Basically looking at this as a correction to the high. So basically just this is one big correction for it to just gradually make its way back up here, and then looking for a potential sell-off to the downside. That's basically how I am looking to take this, but we can obviously understand that this can just get a little bit larger and then go as well. We have to always understand that there's multiple possibilities for this to play out, and then we might get something just extend a little bit further up before it comes down. So that's basically how I'm looking at DXY. DXY is still looking pretty bullish at the moment. Nothing has really changed. I think daily is probably the best time frame to just sit on with this one. Not really anything else to kind of really come back at. Jumping on to JP225, it's still in that very, very nice area in my opinion. I think the nice thing about this is that we've tapped into this high over here. We've pushed above, really convincing price action at this point, especially on the weekly, and now we might get a really nice good retrace back in there. If we get that, that's looking very nice in my opinion, and I'll be looking to get scaled in on the related pairs. At the moment, we have to understand that we are just kind of squeezing. This obviously isn't what I'm concerned or really looking to entertain. We do have this sort of left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Not too bothered about that, to be honest. I want to see this clear price come back down here, and then we're in this run, and then that's solidified, and then we'll see that on the higher time frames on the daily, which will be more than enough, and we'll just see really good price moving down. So that's basically all I'm looking at on the JP225, just waiting for price to really decline, give us a message, and then take it from there. USD yen. So USD yen has kind of tapped into this inflection point. Doesn't have to come all the way up here, but it's more than enough than possible. We are kind of correctively squeezing lower, so I'm not really convinced with the sell at the moment. Looking at it on the hourly, we are kind of giving us some sort of signals for a short, but not really my sort of price action I'm looking for. We had that little mini scoop push back down. If we get convincing and we start selling down here, then continuations down here, potentially I would get involved. But for now, it's not really the sort of price. This can easily just become this, and then next thing we're kind of just looking at this larger flag, and then we wouldn't be surprised if it's all the way up here, would we? So I think for that point there, I'm just not going to worry about USD yen for now and just kind of keep it there, just because we can get that volatility. It pushes up and then we just start selling, and I don't want to not be involved on this particular pair. I want to be waiting for that, so that when it does shape up, I am sharp and ready. Euro CAD, I think this is one more so I'm really interested at the moment. So we are gravitating so close to this low. I'm looking to see if this can correct, tap into this sort of area over here, and then we get a sell-off. I'm convinced that this is the expanding to the low, but this could be more than enough for it to just kind of push through. So to this low is where I'm looking to take it. I think in terms of a risk reward, it's not so bad. I don't think there's point sizing up, but yeah, there's about 172 pips there. So, it's a pretty good size position to the low. We're potentially looking at a 17% pip, 17% position there, 11% roughly. Could be very, very nice. We just have to wait and see how that shapes up. So, good impulse, this corrective price. We can gravitate to this high, but not so concerned about it. Just looking at this little section over here, and then can we push through this and gravitate to this low? If we do, that's going to be a game. Honestly, that's going to be really nice. The next one is Aussie US dollar. So it's a bit of a mistrade for me at the moment, but I am hoping that we do come up for a revisit and we test it again. The mistrade was over here when we did come up for the mini scoop double top there. Then again, it's not the best quality trades in my opinion. I think I'm more than happy to wait for price to potentially gravitate, make its way back up here, and then we just sell off. And then we get a nicer pattern on the 4 hour where we can see we get nice equal spacing, 3-touch, confluences are there, and there might be an abundance of opportunity on the way down. So we just have to wait and see how that one shapes up. But I think for AU, it's definitely my most favorited pair throughout the whole entire watch list of my cards. GBP yen, very much like the DXY, I just don't think it's ready yet. We've broken above this high. We are in this larger sort of pattern. I can't really scale and see any sort of pattern within a pattern here yet. I was hoping for more for, sort of push up, push down, push up, and then we get a 3-touch, but it just looks like it's correcting its way to get to the high. Just have to wait and take a signal from the market in these situations. So For that reason, I'm just going to be extra patient and just wait that one through. But we can clearly see I'm going to wait for the push up, push down on the flag. New Zealand yen. New Zealand yen is somewhat in the same sort of area I'm seeing my Aussie US dollar trade, where I'm just looking for that 3 touch. It's kind of convincing us we're selling off. It's kind of coming more into an expanding feel at the moment. Let it do its thing. If it gravitates back up here, look for the entry. If it doesn't, it is what it is. I'm not too concerned at that point. So for now, I'm just going to be extra patient and wait it through, see what happens. If we get a trade, we get a trade. If we don't, it is what it is. EJ is one I think also requires a bit more patience. We've been gravitating to this high very correctively. No surprise that we are creating some sort of level, but we could be creating a floor in any of these inflection points. And I think for that reason as well, I don't want to be taking a short position to only be spiked out. So I'll wait till we've tapped into this really good valuable area, and then we'll see what happens. If we don't, take a message from the market. Moving on to wildcards, we can see CAD-Yen. CAD-Yen was one that I kind of contemplated today. We actually look very nice structurally, I'll be honest with you. So we have a small inflection point over here. We pushed above all of this. We corrected with 1, 2, 3. Not really the best pattern within a pattern, but if we drill into before we drill into that, let's just look. So we've come in from a big impulse. Makes sense to have this large correction. We go to the 4 hour. We can then see we had an inflection point over here, and then we had like a little bit of a final squeeze. As we had the final squeeze, we consolidated this area, and it looks like we're beginning to drop off. I do truly believe that this is a very good area for us to be looking for short positions. However, at this moment in time, I think also a push down and a flag would be more safer, but we do have a nice impulse away from this area with a nice mini scoop, and then we're creating consolidation down here below this price. I think this is a very good quality position, better to be seen on the 15, where we can see that we had a nice little tight squeeze, which I think is where the trade would have been within here, and you would have seen it in there and mitigated your risk potentially up here, and then you would have been looking to get involved here. However, seeing it now, it could be creating something a little bit larger than we thought, and if we do get something like this and then we create this sort of section, then I might be inclined to look for a short position in this area. But for now, I'll just have to wait and see if it does even shape up. More than likely, it's probably going to sell off, but I don't want to be FOMOing into any sort of trade, so I'll just have to wait and see how that develops. But trade could actually shape up to be quite nice. Looking at the other yen related pairs though, there is some bull momentum in there, so I don't want to be getting caught out taking any old trade. I just want to wait and see how this plays. The next one I'm looking at is Aussie Japanese yen. I think AJ is also one of my most favorited pairs on this list. No surprise that they're both Aussie pairs at this point. Structurally, Aussie yen I think it's going to be very, very nice. I just think we need to wait for that approach. So if I drill into the 4 hour, what we can see here is we have this sort of value area here and some inflection points just above. But I'm more interested in this little mini double top. Call it a near miss to this high, because it was a tap into that and a sharp little push away. So that does hold some level of relevance. And then we have a 1, 2, 3 leading into this area. I want to see if price can actually make its way there. It's not the best sort of middle section at this point now. So this could get some level of larger, and then we might see price come down here and then just make its way finally up here, and then we sell off. And I think structurally that's going to look a lot nicer. So if I do get something like that, then I would be inclined for the short position, but at this moment in time, it's just a wild card. I'm going to have to wait and see, take a message from the market. New Zealand CAD was looking pretty good for a reversal. I think it just took one where I think I was just monitoring it too much. And maybe a slight bit of FOMO in here as well. So I'm just going to map this out quickly, and we'll just see how price has been developing really. So if we look at it quite closely, we can see that originally there was that level of a 1, 2, 3, but we didn't quite get it. And then we evolved over so much, and we can see we've actually tapped into it here. So if we move price in a little bit more, we can see that this is the final squeeze. In the grand scheme of things, we are moving from a bigger time perspective where we have this sort of push up, this very corrective middle section, and then we push up again, right? So it does make sense to look for longs. We've cleared this low, and then we've tapped into this area down here, and then we've pushed up. We pushed up quite aggressively. It's nice, and then we started correcting, which makes so much sense. even though this is somewhat becoming quite equal with the impulse at this point, I think it's still a very nice corrective move. I think the bull run will come, but we just have to wait for that push up and then wait for that little correction and then get up with it. And I think that's more of the better play at this point, rather than getting caught up in these areas. I think the risk entry was looking somewhat level of nice. You know, we had that 1, 2, 3, we tapped in, we had nice little bull momentum on the 4 hour, and then kind of drilled a little bit lower. Looking at it, and that's what 1 hour, and that's like 15. Can we see a 15-minute flag? And then this at first was looking some level of good, but we got no commitment after that. And obviously we always had to know that, you know, this level here was also something, and then we had to understand that this can also be evolved. It can become something a little bit more. We might even get something a bit more inside. So there was just too many variations of what this could develop into. I just didn't want to hold into something like that. But this was obviously looking pretty good when we had that little correction, and then we could have just pushed up. Anyway, it is what it is. Then we've got USD Swiss. Right now, USD Swiss is very premature for me. I'm still waiting for the DXY. So DXY is leading on this one. We have a corrective squeeze upwards, which is quite nice. Just waiting it through, you know, we haven't really got full confirmation at this point until we've, you know, cleared this high and we've come back in. That's when I want to go. But like I said, with the DXY, we might get some strong bullish momentum. Things might turn around, and if we get it, that's when I could be looking to be sharp. And then USD Yen, USD Swiss, you know, they're going to shape up pretty rapidly, and EU. Looking at Euro Aussie, it was looking pretty nice for the short as well, I'll be honest with you. What I did like about this is we had that sort of head and shoulders feel over here. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, just breaking through the left and pushed through. Didn't get the solid commitment, and we retraced all the way back up. In some ways, we could say that this is a level of a retest. That was more so a retest there, but it's come all the way back up here to retest this. Looking at it on the higher time frame, it's not my sort of price action now that I want to look at. But what I do like is that there's still the potential that we can still come up here. We have the near miss. So this being corrective is no surprise at this point when you do think about that near miss, and, you know, could we actually get there with something? You know, how are we going to get there now? Are we going to create something like this where we have that 3 touch, or are we going to just impulsively move? There's a lot of little different variations, so it's quite premature at this point right now. More so, I just want to see this play through, so I'm going to be patient. And last but not least, I'm looking at Euro US dollar. Euro US dollar, I think, doesn't need to be touched until we actually have commitment from this low. This is just a inflection point, obviously nothing of any major significance at this point, just an inflection point. Do we turn around and make our way back up? We'll have to wait and see. That's why the DXY, I think, a lot of consolidation here at the moment because we are in this area, but I think all in all, push up on the DXY, push down on Euro USD, we fill the gap, we come back to this low, and then we look to get long. And I think that's really it, to be honest. I think that's all there is. So that's basically my outlook for my watch list and wildcards. I did kind of just go with what other people were looking at this week because I didn't have enough time to really go off my own solid analysis. So like I said, this might be a week where I take no trades, only on the pure basis that, you know, I'm going to have to go over my charts multiple times before I really do think about really getting involved. But yeah, more so I think it's looking pretty good right now to really get involved in the market. So if you do find any value in this content I posted today, be more than happy to hear some feedback. Obviously I'm a bit recovering at the moment from my surgery, but yes, it's all looking upwards from here. So let's see how this develops over the week. Catch you in the next video, everyone.